Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today on today's video we'll be talking about creating custom Docker images and uploading them to a registry. And we'll see how easy it is to do these things. I have a Python application set up, and it's a fast API, and it's a very basic application. Nothing to see pretty much. I mean, really very simple application. And because that's not the point or the goal of this tutorial. The goal of this tutorial is to teach you how to build your own custom Docker images and uploading them to the Docker registry. Like I mentioned in the earlier session, there are several registries, but for the purpose of this video and this tutorial, we'll be making use of the Docker Hub registry. And for you to do that, you need to have some prerequisites, which includes creating an account, beg your pardon, on hub.docker registry. Not to worry, I would also be adding the link down below in the description, so it's easy for reference and also for you to be able to navigate there. I will also be showing you how to, some other new commands that we've not used earlier in the previous session of how to get our image from that we've built locally to a remote repository, in this case a Docker registry. So without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? So I've prepared you a very basic Python application here. It's a fast API. It does pretty much what you see here. On the base root, it returns hello world, hello as a key, and the word being the value. That's all it does. Very simple, right? Anyways, that's not the goal of this tutorial. The goal of this tutorial is to teach you how to build your own custom Docker images. So hence the trivia application. Anyways, I'd like to show you that this works. Great. Sorry. Here we come. And then if I run this now, we should get our application running. And the purpose of me doing this is to show you that this application runs. This has nothing to do with Docker just yet, and then we'll introduce Docker next to it, so we see that it works just like it works normally without Docker, and then we'll see how it works with Docker. So that being said, let's proceed. What I need to do first of all, of course, is to stop this from running, because that is not the focus for today. Well, moving on. To create a custom image, you need to create a custom. You need to create your own Docker file, basically. And by default, the name of the file is, as you might have guessed, Docker file, pretty much. So by default, Docker will look for this file, or you can specify a file path to where the Docker instruction that you want to use in building this image of yours must have been situated, as the case may be. There are very few arguments, or should I say instructions, that you put in this file, but there are very few, handful of them. So first we have the from keyword, which is how you specify the base image that you want to run this custom image of yours on. So in our case, we are running a Python application, and I would be running it on version 3.10. So Python being the base image, and then we specify the tag, which, like I mentioned in the earlier session, is as good as saying specifying the version number. So we say Python 3 colon, then we specify the version as 3.10, right? And like so, we have the base image, right? Because if you actually go onto Docker Hub right now and put this in, you would get an image. You will see a Python image, and in the documentation you will see all the versions tag that are possible that you can use, that are already available packaged in that image. So the next thing is something called work dir, right? Like say work directory. And an interesting thing to note about this is that work directory, what it does under the hood is to create a new directory, which I will specify mine as app, right? And it does one more thing after that. It's cd into it. It changes the active directory, sorry, the working directory to that directory that you specified it as. So essentially create and cd inside that, you know, what you can, how you can think of it and work there. And if you're familiar with Python development, there is this convention where we put in all our dependencies in a file called requirement.txt. So it's a good practice when you, especially when you are building Python images or any image for that matter, to first of all install your dependencies before you know proceed. So what I would do first of all is to copy requirements. Not to worry, all of this will be on my GitHub. I will also be dropping the link below. Requirement.txt, and we are copying it as also as requirement.txt. Remember what this would essentially be would this is the same pattern, host container. Don't forget that. So this will essentially give us something like slash app slash this, right? Remember that. So what do we do from here? We've got our requirements. So our dependencies, the first thing we want to do after that is to install them, right? And we can do that by using the command called run. So you can use the this run to issue command for, literally issuing commands of what you want to happen in the container. With Python, the usual one is to, of course, run pip install, right? And we can do pip install. We are specifying some flags here called no cache directory, and then we want it to make use of the upgraded version of pip should there be any available. And then we do -r, which is how we try to specify which requirements you are trying to install, which in this case is from requirement.txt. Oh, great. Requirement.txt. Cool. So essentially, all to this step, I'm happy to tell you that we have, set a base image, set a working directory, copied our requirements, as well as as of this moment, as of this point that we are at, run installation of our requirements. So the next thing we can do from this point is to copy our source files, right? So we can basically just copy everything in this base directory of the host and put that in the container. So we can use a dot. We are copying everything in this current directory to everything in this current directory in the container, which as you would expect, that is inside the app directory. And we've done that now. The next thing is to issue the command in which we want this container should execute. So with that, we specify something like an array or a list in Python, and then we specify our commands as strings, each one of them, like so. So what we can do is then do, just like I ran it here by saying uvcon this, and we would also do the same, something like so, because we need to specify some few flags. This has nothing to do with Docker, by the way. This part I'm about to just write out, this is particularly a thing of how you deploy, how you run a uvcon web server with fast API, basically. So we do that by saying uvcon comma, and then we do, because we are inside the app directory, we do app. We're already in the directory, so we can do app dot. I'm using dot there because that's how you specify modules, how you navigate modules in Python. And we do app, which is how we are running the application. and we specify dash dash host, right? And we specify the host, which is the, as you might expect, the default local host, which is the same thing as not dot not dot not. And then we want to also specify something like the port, uh, where, by the way, this port is also the same as inside the container, and then we specify that port, right? So by doing this, we have basically built an image. We've specified the instruction to build an image. We've not quite yet built the image just yet. So what we do next is to issue the command for building the image. Remember earlier I mentioned if you have a file named Docker file, Docker picks it up automatically, but if that was not the name, you'd have to specify it. So how you can build this is by saying Docker build, because yeah, the file is in here, so we don't need to specify the name of the file. But if you were to specify the name of the file, you do something like -f, then Docker file, or whatever the path to that file is. But I won't be doing that in this case because we don't need it. It's just redundant. Something I need to do is specify the tag, by the way, which is the way this works. Because I still want to push this upstream, I need to use the namespace of my Docker hub in this. So to do that, what we do is specify, to not have issues when we want to push our image, I'm specifying my username, which is this. So if you are doing this locally, you would have to, I would recommend you specify your own username, not mine, so that you don't, you're able to push to your own registry, as to mine, of course, which wouldn't be possible anyways, but yeah, something to note there. And then for this tutorial, I'm just do -t, and then we say this, and we built, no, let's do this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is to build the image. So we say Docker build, right, -t for tag, or you can just say tag, right? We say -t for tag, and then we specify the tag you're giving this image. In this case, let's call this YouTube Docker tut, let's say img Docker image, right? And then we specify the Docker file. In this case, we are using the default name, so Docker will look for a file called Docker file to build off the instruction in there, right? So we are going to do dot, which is saying our current directory. So enter here, and if I do Docker image ls, remember that from our previous video, where we talked about all the Docker commands, the frequently used ones. So we can do Docker image, and we can see that we now have our image built, right, which was 6 minutes ago, right? So what we're going to do from this point is, before we proceed, we want to test that this particular image that we've built works perfectly. So what we're going to do is, just like any other image, let me clear my screen here. Just like any other image, we are going to run the command docker run, and then we specify the image, right? However, remember, we want to specify some custom stuff, which is how we're going to be able to reach this application in our container from the host machine. So here, remember, in our Docker file here, we specify that we are listening on port 80 in the container. So we are going to use that, map that port to the host machine as well, right? Just like we did with in the previous tutorial, we say -p, which is port. Run our application. Voila, that's what we've seen there, right? Our application is running, and we are going to do, because we are not listening on port 80 on the host machine. So if we come here, specify port 9000, our application is running, right? Cool. So we've verified our application works perfectly and no issues. So what we're going to do now is we want to push this our image, our custom image, to our repository, to our Docker Hub repository, right? So I'm here on my Docker Hub. This is my these are the images that I have up there, right? And you can see so what we are going to do now is push our own image, and as you can see, I don't have the image just built just now. So what I'm going to do is this. We'll stop this from running for a sec there, and then we do docker image ls. We can see our image here. So here's something you need to know. It's before you push an image, so you need to tag that image. So we do docker tag, and the tag is pretty much the name of the image, and then we do this. The username, this is your own username. This would not work for you if you type in what I'm typing here. This is my own Docker username. So I do this, and then I specify the repository, which in this case is YouTube Docker image that we just built, right? So if I do docker image ls, right, so we can still see, we see that we now have this which we just tagged, which is what we're going to push upstream. So what we're going to do is say docker push this image which we just tagged. Oops, it says resource denied. Oh, sorry guys, I spelled my username wrong when I was tagging the image. Hence the reason why it was giving me the sorry. So you need to be sure of your spellings, right? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do that step again, all right, which is tagging this image by saying this time around I am sure to spell my username correctly, and yeah, we do this, and then if I do docker so we can be on the same page, let's do docker image ls. This is the one we want in my case because of my username, right? The second one actually, so I do docker push this, and as we were saying, the image is being pushed upstream to Docker Hub, and once this is done, we should be able to see that image on Docker Hub in a second, right? So yeah, this is almost done, and once it's done, we'll be able to find this image upstream, and you can actually find this image, the one I have just pushed, and pull it as well, which we're also going to do in a second. But before we do that, let's verify this image has been pushed to Docker Hub. That's, if I reload, yes, voila, and you can see a few seconds ago, right, that image has been pushed. That is the image we built locally. We've tested that the image works, and now we've pushed it upstream as well. So we also want to pull it down and test again that this image works, which means if you also do the same thing on your side, this image would work for you as well. What we're going to do now is we are going to remove all the local references that we've done by deleting all the images that we've built, including the one we built locally. So we do docker rmi, which is remove image, and then we can specify one or multiple images. So in this case, I'm going to specify all of them. And okay, it seems like one of them didn't get deleted, which is the last one. So what I'm going to do is force it. It's like it suggested. It says it's probably being used somewhere. So, well, I really don't care about that image anymore locally right now, because we've got a single source of truth upstream, right? So why don't we use that? So we can do docker images, and we can see that none of those images exist anymore. Okay, so what we are going to do now is do docker pull opposite of push, we are going to pull that image and say docker pull my username and the image name, which is this. See, when you come here, you can see the command here that says push, but if you want to pull, you just copy this username, this, and then you can pull the image down like so, and docker image ls, we've got the image back, right? And to show you that it's the same image, if we run the same command we did earlier, when we run it, except this time around, this is the image now, everything is up and running. So if we reload this page, we should, voila, just like that. And with that, we have come to an end with building custom images for Docker, right? In further tutorials, I'll also be showing you how to, combine multiple images, how to work together with multiple images. I'll also be showing you that in a later video. But for now, we've come to an end with this mini series. It's a 2 parts. If you've not seen the first part and this part seems what's going on, I suggest you watch my previous video on getting started with Docker part 1 for beginners, which is where we talked about what Docker is, architecture of Docker, as well as some common commands with using Docker for day-to-day. For now, and that will be all. Until next time, please guys do like my video and share with your friends. Let's all learn together. And in case you haven't, if you are new here, please push the subscribe button for me, right? And turn on your notification bell so you get to know when the next time I drop new videos. Until the next time, thank you.